Welcome back to Marketing Science Lab, knowledge seekers. Alex here, ready to dissect some data and, dare I say, bend the space-time continuum of marketing theory.
And Sophie here, ready to translate that continuum bending into something fun, relatable, and maybe just a little bit mind-blowing. This week, we're diving deep into how we compare ourselves. But buckle up, because it's not your average keeping up with the Joneses episode.
Nope. We're venturing into the fascinating realm of temporal comparison. Forget comparing yourself to your neighbor's new car. Sophie, we're talking about comparing yourself to yourself. Across time, prepare for some serious self-reflection, listeners.
Ooh, introspective marketing, I like it. Temporal comparison. Sounds a bit academic, Alex. Lay it on us. What exactly is it?
Okay, picture this. You're scrolling through your camera roll. Maybe you stumble upon a photo from a few years back. Instantly, you might have a reaction, right? Wow, I look so young then. Or maybe, hey, I was in better shape back then. Gotta get back to the gym. That, in a nutshell, is temporal comparison. Is that innate human tendency to evaluate our current selves against our past selves.
Totally relatable, especially those pre-pandemic travel pics. Sigh. But how does this differ from, normal social comparison?
Traditional marketing and psychology have heavily leaned on social comparison theory. Festinger's classic idea, it's all about how we assess ourselves by looking at other people. Am I as successful as my colleagues, as stylish as that influencer? But temporal comparison, as this killer research in psychology and marketing by Taylor and Carlson highlights, is intra-individual. It's you versus you across time.
Intra-individual, got it. So, what types of temporal comparisons are we even talking about? Is it just all one big nostalgic or regretful blob?
Great question. The OG temporal comparison theory actually breaks it down into a few key types, mainly reflective temporal comparisons. Think about it. When we reflect on our past, we can do it in different ways. There's downward comparison, looking back at a less favorable past self to boost your current self-esteem. Phew, thank goodness I'm not still rocking that haircut from 2010.
Oh, definitely guilty of that kind of downward comparison. Makes you feel instantly better about your present, no matter what. What else?
Then there's upward comparison, looking at a more favorable past self. This can be a bit of a double-edged sword. It could be motivating, like remembering a time you were super fit and wanting to get back there. But it can also lead to self-deprecation, like feeling you've peaked and are now in decline. Sigh, remember when I could actually run a 5K without collapsing?
Ouch, relatable again. Upward comparison can sting a little. And the last one?
Lateral comparison. That's when you evaluate your current self against a similar past self. It's more about maintaining a stable sense of self over time. Like, okay, I'm still pretty much the same person I was a year ago, consistent.
Interesting. So those are the reflective types. But this research focuses on predictive temporal comparison, right? Future-focused self-comparison?
You're on fire, Sophie. Predictive temporal comparison is the really juicy bit for marketers today. It's about comparing your current self to your envisioned future self, and digital platforms are turbocharging this whole process.
Digital platforms, because of the selfies, the curated feeds, the whole online persona thing?
Exactly. Think Instagram, TikTok, even metaverse avatars. They're all playgrounds for future self-exploration. Digital spaces let us try on different future identities with minimal real-world risk. We curate these ideal versions of ourselves online, and subconsciously or even consciously, these images start influencing our present choices.
So my aspirationally lit yoga pose selfie from last month is whispering in my ear to buy more yoga pants today? The algorithm is getting deep.
Algorithmically aspirational, and it's not just about yoga pants. This research argues that predictive temporal comparisons are driven by different motivations than typical social comparison. It's less about keeping up with the Joneses' immediate validation and more about those long-term goals, those deeply personal identity projects. It's about becoming the best version of me, not just being better than them.
Less competition, more self-actualization, marketing?
Kind of, and brands are catching on. Think about fitness apps showing projected body transformations, language learning platforms visualizing your future fluent self. even financial tools showcasing your dream retirement lifestyle. It's all leveraging predictive temporal comparison to motivate consumer behavior.
Right, it's that future you will thank you vibe, amplified and digitized. But Alex, you hinted at an ethical tightrope earlier. Where's the potential for things to go sideways?
Well, social media by its very nature tends towards positivity bias. We curate highlight reels, we selectively document the good stuff, rarely the mundane or messy bits. So when we engage in temporal comparison based on digital artifacts, both our own past posts and the idealized feeds of others, there's a risk of skewed perceptions.
The good old days fallacy, digitally amplified?
Exactly. Retrospective self-comparisons based on our own online archives can evoke a longing for a past that might not even be entirely accurate, leading to potential psychological difficulties, as the research suggests. We remember the curated version, not necessarily the reality. And future-oriented projections can also be problematic if they become unrealistic.
Unrealistic future selves, setting us up for disappointment?
Precisely. If marketing leans too heavily into idealized, unattainable future selves, it can backfire. It can create pressure, fuel anxieties, especially for vulnerable groups. Think about body image issues amplified by hyper-filtered online ideals. Marketers need to be mindful. Ethical storytelling is crucial here.
Okay, ethical storytelling, what does that actually look like in practice? Give us some concrete examples, Alex, beyond just don't be evil.
Right. Actionable insights are key. For brands wanting to ethically leverage predictive temporal comparison, it starts with authenticity. Show real people's journeys. User-generated content showcasing actual transformations, not just polished end results. Think Dove's Real Beauty campaign, but amplified for the digital age.
User-generated content is aspirational and relatable. I like that. What else?
Focus on progress, not perfection. Marketing should highlight the journey of self-improvement, the small wins, the resilience, not just the final, flawless after photo. Think fitness brands showing diverse body types achieving realistic progress over time, celebrating milestones along the way rather than just pushing for some impossible ideal.
So, less become a supermodel overnight, more celebrate your small victories every day. Makes sense.
Exactly. And transparency is key, especially with AI and personalization getting more sophisticated. If you're using augmented reality to show someone a future self, be clear about how that projection is generated, what data it's based on. Consumers deserve to understand the mechanics, not feel like they're being manipulated by magic.
Transparency builds trust, for sure. And brands should probably think about partnerships with mental health organizations too, right? Especially when dealing with sensitive topics like body image, well-being, or mental health itself.
Absolutely. Collaborations with mental health professionals can inform campaign development, ensuring messaging is responsible and emphasizes emotional regulation and self-acceptance. Brands could sponsor workshops, create online resources that educate consumers about navigating digital comparisons healthily. Positioning themselves as advocates for well-being elevates brand perception and does good in the world. Win-win.
Okay, practitioner playbook upgraded. Authenticity, progress over perfection, transparency, and ethical partnerships. Got it. But zooming out again, Alex, this research also touches on the risks of overstimulation from constant comparison online, especially for certain groups.
Yes, the research flags that for individuals with stigmatized or vulnerable identities, the digital comparison environment can be particularly tricky. The risk of stereotype threat is exacerbated online, and for everyone, honestly, there's a risk of comparison overload. We are bombarded with so many potential comparison targets online, it can be overwhelming.
Like comparison fatigue? Is that a thing?
Absolutely a thing, especially for individuals with lower self-esteem or a heightened social comparison orientation already. All those curated feeds, all those aspirational images, it can become too much, leading to anxiety, feelings of inadequacy. The study even hints at the question, in this hyper-digital landscape, are we losing our ability to understand ourselves effectively amidst the noise?
Whoa, a deep question, Alex. It's almost like we're outsourcing our self-perception to the algorithm.
A little bit, potentially, which is why, as consumers, we also need a playbook for navigating this future self-comparison world mindfully. Number one, mindful scrolling. Recognize that social media is a curated space. Everyone's putting their best foot forward, digitally speaking. Don't let it be your sole measure of self-worth or progress. Remember the highlight reel effect.
2. Future self as inspiration, not pressure. We've said it before, but it's worth repeating. Use aspirational visions as motivation, as a positive nudge, but don't let them morph into anxiety or self-criticism. Unfollow accounts that trigger negative comparisons. Curate your feed mindfully too.
3. Balance online and offline. Prioritize real-world experiences, real-world progress. Your worth isn't measured in likes or followers. True growth happens in both spaces, but arguably, the offline space is where the deepest, most meaningful growth takes root.
And 4. Echoing the ethical marketing point. Reflect on your why. Constantly question the source of your aspirations. Are they genuinely yours, aligned with your values, or are they externally imposed ideals, amplified by societal pressures and algorithms? Be discerning, be self-aware. Exercise.
Boo! Consumer Self-Defense 101, Digitally Edition. Predictive temporal comparison is a powerful force, both for marketers and for our own self-perception. Understanding its mechanisms, its ethical implications, and its potential pitfalls is crucial in this increasingly digital age.
Future self, present self, past self. It's a whole time-bending marketing and self-discovery adventure. This research is seriously insightful stuff.
Absolutely, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore about temporal comparison, digital identity, and the evolving relationship between consumers and brands in the metaverse and beyond.
Metaverse selves. That's a whole other can of worms for future episodes, Alex. And on that future-focused note, that's our time for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Marketing Science Lab podcast.
From time-traveling selfies to aspirational avatars, predictive temporal comparison is reshaping consumer culture. It's a bit Back to the Future meets Black Mirror, right? But seriously, this research provides valuable insights for both marketers and consumers navigating the digital age. We hope you found it illuminating. Join us next week for more data-driven discoveries from Marketing Science Lab podcast.